Not every person who shares your blood deserves a seat in your life. Some carry your last name, but envy your peace. Some call you family yet shrink your spirit every time you rise. And when life begins to pull you away from them, betrayal feels gentle. It feels like betrayal. It feels like loss. But what if it's not destruction? It's protection. There comes a moment where your growth exposes the truth in others, who claps when you win and who quietly hopes you fall. Who loves you for who you are and who only loved what you gave. Stoics taught that the greatest suffering comes not from enemies, but from expecting loyalty from wrong hearts. And sometimes life removes people, even family, not to break you, but to unchain you, to lead you back to your own peace, to return you to yourself. So if you're here with a quiet ache inside your chest, wondering why the distance grows, stay, because this message will help you understand what that separation really means and why it might be the beginning of your liberation. Family is often romanticized as something unbreakable. We grow up hearing that blood is thicker than water, that family stands with you no matter what. But as we mature, reality becomes sharper. Some people share our DNA, yet feel like strangers to our soul. Others share no blood with us at all, yet love us more honestly than those who helped raise us. The Stoics understood this truth long before modern psychology gave it language. Bond is not proved by genetics. It's proven by consistency, respect, and presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." He never said, "unless it's family." Wisdom does not bend for bloodlines, and neither should your peace. There comes a subtle moment, a quiet shift, when you start feeling uneasy around those you once trusted without question. You leave family gatherings more drained than uplifted. You shrink yourself to avoid conflict. You hold your tongue to keep the peace while this cuts you open. You tell yourself it's normal, but your body whispers otherwise. That feeling is your intuition picking up what your loyalty refuses to see. Sometimes the people closest to us become the first to sabotage our growth. Not always out of hatred, often out of insecurity. Your healing reminds them of wounds they refuse to face. Your success exposes the effort they never made. Your peace disrupts their chaos. And instead of growing with you, they try to pull you back into familiarity because your transformation threatens their comfort. So you compromise. You dim your light. You stay silent to avoid being misunderstood. You swallow your truth because you don't want to seem ungrateful, but deep inside you feel it. The inner friction of betraying yourself to belong. Here's where Stoicism meets emotional intelligence. You cannot call it love if it demands the death of your authenticity. Love frees. Love expands. Love breathes. If you must shrink to be accepted, you're not loved, you're tolerated. This is the cold realization that hurts but it heals. Some people don't hate you. They hate that they can't control you anymore. Your boundaries feel like disrespect to those who benefited from your lack of them. Therefore, when distance begins, whether through silence, fading calls, or a sudden shift in energy, it may not be abandonment. It may be alignment. Life is redirecting you toward people who nourish your spirit instead of draining it. Stoicism teaches self-ownership. You cannot control how others treat you, only how you respond. You cannot force someone to love you correctly, only choose where your heart rests. The pain you feel during separation is not a sign you're wrong. It's evidence that you cared deeply. But caring does not require clinging. The bravest act of self-respect is letting go of those who refuse to meet you in honesty. Walking away isn't betrayal. It's self-preservation. Music, it's choosing inner peace over inherited obligation. It's saying my soul matters too. You are not cold for needing space. You are not selfish for choosing healing. You are not weak for feeling the loss, but you are wise for honoring it. Sometimes the universe or God or fate removes people not to punish you, but to prepare you. The moment you stop forcing connection, you stop bleeding for approval. Your energy returns. Your clarity sharpens. You begin to see who stands with you, and you have nothing to offer but your presence. And that is where real family begins. You've probably wondered at some point, why would God or life separate me from people I love, especially when those people are family? The distance feels unnatural. The silence echoes. You replay conversations, memories, arguments, and you try to make sense of the crack that formed where love once lived. But what if the separation isn't happening to you? What if it's happening for you? Stoicism teaches that peace is found in acceptance, in recognizing what is within your control and releasing what is not. When a relationship becomes a battlefield of subtle tension, unspoken resentment or quiet hostility, holding on becomes a form of self-harm. Sometimes life removes people not because they're evil, but because your paths are no longer aligned. You are healing. They are comfortable in old patterns. You are growing. They prefer stagnation. You are seeking truth. They cling to denial. Your evolution threatens their familiarity. So they respond with distance, criticism, or withdrawal. This hurts deeply, especially when it comes from blood. But pain is often the first sign of transformation. A broken bone must be set apart before it can mend. A seed must be buried in darkness before it can sprout. A tree must shed leaves before blooming anew. Separation precedes growth. Distance protects what is becoming. When God removes people, He isn't reducing your life, He's refining it. He sees the jealousy they hide behind jokes. He sees judgment behind smiles. He hears what was spoken when you weren't in their room. You might sense it. The tone shifts. The energy changes. The warmth cools. Your intuition whispers that something isn't right. And instead of ignoring the feeling, Stoicism urges you to observe without attachment. Not every absence is a loss. Sometimes it's a shield. Redirection often feels like rejection at first. But rejection is sometimes protection in disguise. Someone who constantly belittles your dreams is no longer allowed to anchor your potential. Someone who manipulates your kindness is no longer permitted access to your heart. Someone who competes instead of celebrates is no longer welcome at your table. God or life removes what cannot go where you are headed. Look back at moments you were separated from people you once thought you couldn't live without. At the time you cried, questioned, resisted, but with distance clarity came you found peace, growth, purpose. You became stronger, wiser, calmer. Would you still trade who you are today to return to who you were back then? Probably not. Separation is a spiritual detox. It clears the atmosphere so you can breathe. It removes noise so you can hear yourself again. It breaks generational patterns so you can rise above them. And Hurley's a deeper truth. If someone can walk away easily, they were never aligned with your soul, only your history. Some people are chapters, not the entire book. Some are seasons, not destinies. And God removes who cannot honor your growth, even if you still love them. This is emotional maturity. To accept distance without bitterness, to love without clinging, to release without hating, to move forward without needing closure. Stoic strength is not absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. You can grieve the separation and still trust the process. You can miss them and still know it's better this way. You can love them from afar without reopening the wound, because peace is expensive and your soul has already paid enough. There's a moment subtle, quiet, almost unnoticeable. When the universe shifts, a relationship that once felt natural begins to feel heavy. You sense something is off, but you can't explain why. No fight, no explosion, just a slow dimming of connection. It's not always dramatic. That sometimes God removes people with a whisper, not a storm. Here are the signs the separation was random, but divinely aligned and necessary. Peace arrives when they leave. Not instantly, but slowly. The emotional fog lifts. Your chest feels lighter. Your thoughts clearer. You laugh easier. You sleep deeper. You realize peace wasn't missing. It was being stolen. Stoicism teaches that anything threatening inner peace must be released. If peace grows in their absence, that's not coincidence. That's confirmation. You stop tolerating what once felt normal. The jokes that belittled you aren't funny anymore. The passive-aggressive comments don't slide unnoticed anymore. What you once brushed off now feels disrespectful. Growth changes tolerance. Healing grieves what was hurting you. Life separates you from people who no longer align with your self-worth. When you rise, old dynamics break, not because you're arrogant, but because you finally recognize your value. Their energy feels heavy, even when their words sound kind. Ever been around someone who drains you without saying a single harsh word? You feel tense, guarded, uneasy. That's your intuition, the soul's intelligence. Asterisk emotional intelligence means trusting that feeling. When your nervous system relaxes away from someone, it speaks louder than their apologies ever could. Conversations become surface level and spiritually hollow. You talk less, not because you hate them, but because there's nothing left to talk about. Your growth created distance. Your vision expanded while theirs stood still. You can't shrink your soul to fit old rooms anymore. When God wants to elevate you, He disconnects you from environments that keep you small. You become more focused, more disciplined, more aligned after separation. You notice something powerful. You're not distracted anymore. You work better. Think clearer. Your habits tighten. Your mind sharpens. Inner peace fuels productivity. Removed people often made chaos feel normal. Now clarity becomes your new standard. You stop needing validation. Once you craved their approval, you wanted them to understand you, to support you, to see your worth. Now you move without explaining. You heal without announcing. You grow without asking for permission. You no longer chase recognition because you became the witness of your own growth. You feel guided even if you can't articulate why. Doors close, plans shift, communication breaks. It feels like life is pushing you away from them, gently but firmly. This isn't abandonment. It's redirection towards peace, towards purpose, towards people who can meet you where you are becoming. The Stoics believed fate has its own logic. They called it a more fatty love of one's fate. Not just accepting the path, but embracing it. Not resisting endings, but trusting them. Because when God removes, He restores. When He separates, He aligns. When He blocks access, He's guiding you to something higher. Some people are not meant to. Stay for your next chapter because they were only assigned to teach you courage, boundaries, and the value of self-respect. They were lessons, not lifetimes. Sometimes the most loving thing God does for you is not giving you what you want, but taking away what you think you need. It doesn't always look divine at first. It looks like silence, distance, confusion, unanswered messages, invitations that never arrive. Family suddenly too busy to show up for you, but absence speaks. And if you listen closely, it says peace is the new direction. People imagine divine protection as angels blocking storms, miracles appearing, enemies falling. But more often it looks like conversations that stop flowing, like a heart that no longer feels safe around familiar faces, like God whispering through discomfort. This place cannot hold who you are becoming. Protection sometimes arrives disguised as separation. You prayed for peace. He removed thoughts who disturbed it. You asked for clarity. He exposed intentions. You begged for love. He revealed who never carried it. You wanted healing. He gave you space to breathe. We think loss means something has gone wrong. But what if loss is the cure? Like removing a thorn, it stings when pulled out. But leaving it in would cause infection. Distance is divine surgery. It hurts but it saves. God protects you from wounds you cannot see yet. We judge people by actions. God sees motives. We trust words. God hears whispers behind them. He sees the envy hidden behind praise. He hears conversations you'll never know about. He notices every subtle attempt to belittle your growth. You don't, not yet. So he steps in early, not to punish them, but to protect you. Stoicism teaches the same truth. Anything that disrupts inner peace must be released, even when it shares your last name. Emotional confusion is often the first sign of spiritual misalignment. Pay attention to how you feel around someone. Not what they say, not what they promise, but how your soul responds. Do you relax or do you brace? Do you feel seen or silently judged? Do you leave lighter or heavier? Confusion is chaos, pretending to be love. Peace is truth wearing not a disguise. When God removes someone to protect your spirit, you will feel ashift. Slow, subtle, undeniable. Phone calls fade. Connection thins. You stop forcing conversations that used to happen effortlessly. It's not rejection. It's redirection. Distance gives you the room to hear yourself and God again. As long as toxic voices are loud, divine guidance feels faint. But when silence fills the space where noise used to be, something powerful happens. You start thinking clearly. You start hearing your intuition. You start recognizing your worth. Some people were placed in your life to distract you. Others were there to awaken you. And a few were only there to be released. Peace is not passive. It's protective. God guards what grows. And if your spirit is evolving, anything that threatens that evolution must be removed. If their presence steals your peace, their absence is a blessing. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the absence of chronic disturbance. When every conversation exhausts you, when you shrink your light to avoid jealousy, when you walk on eggshells in your own family, that's not normal. That's spiritual suffocation. And God loves you too much to let you live life breathless. So he eases you out. Not always through conflict, but through a door quiet like closing behind you. You don't notice it's locked until peace shows you you're safer outside. Separation forces healing. Even if healing begins with heartbreak, when Simeon leaves, it hurts. When family changes, it cuts deeper. But pain breaks open the places where light enters. Distance gives you space to grow, to see patterns clearly, to understand triggers, to rebuild boundaries with dignity. Sometimes God will isolate you not to punish you but to upgrade you, because who you are becoming cannot coexist with who used to tolerate. Distance is not always loss. Sometimes it's rescue. Sometimes it's realignment. Sometimes it's God saying, your peace matters too. Your soul deserves protection. You were made for more than survival. You're made for growth. And you'll notice when the wrong people leave, the right ones feel drawn to you. Peace attracts peace. Wholeness attracts wholeness. You stop begging to be understood and begin enjoying the silence that sets you free. There is a kind of truth that doesn't come through arguments, confrontations, or emotional explanations. It comes through silence. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence God uses as spotlight, revealing hearts with stunning clarity. When communication fades, when support dries up, when the room grows quiet, you begin to see what was always there, but too noisy to notice. Silence exposes motives more honestly than words ever could. You may have spent years explaining, defending, justifying, hoping someone would understand your heart, yet nothing changed. Then one day, without effort, the distance appears suddenly. You're not calling first. You're not checking in. You're not the one holding the relationship together. You simply step back and the truth begins to speak. Because real love reaches out when there is nothing to take. Conditional love disappears when the benefits disappear. This is why God sometimes stops the noise around you so you can hear reality. The people meant for your spirit lean in when things are quiet. The ones attached only to your presence, your help, your energy drift away when you stop pouring. Then you see silence becomes a filter, separating the genuine from the opportunistic. This is the kind of revelation that hurts but heals. It hurts to realize Someone loved what you gave, not who you were. It hurts to see that presence was convenience, not commitment. It hurts to watch distance reveal that loyalty existed only when you carried the weight. But healing comes when you stop trying to earn what should have been freely offered. Healing comes when you realize peace is more valuable than proximity. Healing comes when you accept that mutual love doesn't require performance, proof, or constant pursuit. Silence teaches you that attention is not affection. Support is not always love. Familiarity is not loyalty. When God pulls you back, He allows space to test the structure of your relationships. A connection built on mutual care strengthens in silence. A connection built on what you provide collapses when you stop providing. You start noticing simple truths. Who checks on you without being asked? Who disappears when you need them most? Who only returns when they need something from you? Who respects your boundaries without resentment? You learn that distance does not break real bonds. It exposes weak ones, and without drama, without confrontation, without conflict. You finally see who is with you versus who is merely near you. Those who remain present when you're no longer convenient are the ones God is highlighting for your future. The others, their drifting is part of your deliverance. God doesn't remove everyone at once. It's time speak. He allows seasons to shift so motives surface naturally, because He doesn't want you to judge by words. He wants you to perceive by patterns. You begin to understand why Jesus often withdrew to lonely places. Silence clarifies. Distance reveals. Absence purifies. When the talking stops, the truth begins. This chapter isn't about bitterness. It's not about cutting people off recklessly. It's about recognizing that clarity is a gift, even when it arrives wrapped in loneliness. Silence is revelation, and revelation is mercy. Because once you see clearly, you stop chasing shadows. You stop apologizing for growing. You stop performing for people who never intended to clap. You stop trying to prove your worth to hearts that were closed long before you arrived. You become free, not through anger but understanding. Not by fighting harder but by surrendering quietly, not by demanding love, but by recognizing where love isn't. When God uses silence to reveal the truth, He isn't trying to break your heart. He is trying to protect your future. And in that realization, peace enters. Asterisk, not the fragile peace that depends on others behaving right, but the grounded peace that comes from knowing God is guarding your life with intention. Silence is not emptiness. It is wisdom speaking softly. And if you lean in, you'll hear it say, "What you lost was never meant to stay. What remains is real. What comes next is divine." Isolation has a way of shaking a person. One moment, you're surrounded by familiar voices. The next, you're alone with your own breathing. No footsteps in the hallway. No constant notifications buzzing. No dependency to cling to. Just you, the silence, and God. For many, this season feels like abandonment. You ask why people drifted, why family grew distant, why the relationships you poured into became dry ground. But isolation is rarely punishment. For those called to higher places, it is training. God removes noise so you can hear what you never could before. Your own voice, your own wounds, your own calling. When you have nothing external to lean on, you begin leaning inward and upward. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You develop clarity you never accessed in chaos. You'll confront truths you once avoided because comfort made it easy to ignore them. Growth rarely happens in crowds. It happens in caves. Think of David. His anointing didn't crown him immediately. Isolation did. Before he became king publicly, he became strong privately alone with God. He wrote psalms that carried the weight of battle scars and the beauty of trust. He didn't learn courage in the castle. He learned it in caves. You are no different. When God removes people, routines, and relationships, it is often because your next chapter requires a stronger, clearer, more spiritually mature version of you. One who no longer seeks validation from disapproving voices. One who isn't shaken by gossip or judgment. One whose identity isn't shaped by acceptance or rejection from others. Isolation forces reflection. Reflection births revelation. You start seeing patterns who drains you and who nourishes you. You identify what habits were keeping you small. You recognize which roles you played in your own suffering. The people pleaser, thief fixer, the overgiver, the one who stayed silent to keep peace. And slowly God begins to rebuild you from the inside out. Not a version centered on approval, but one anchored in conviction. Not someone who needs family validation to feel whole, but someone who carries peace regardless of who stays or goes. Not a heart desperate for love, but a heart that loves from overflow. Not emptiness. This is transformation. You stop begging to be understood. You stop explaining your growth to those committed to misunderstanding it. You stop shrinking to remain acceptable within small circles. You begin to walk with quiet confidence, the kind that comes from knowing God's hand is on your shoulder, even when nobody else sees it. And while others think you're distant, withdrawn, or changed, they're right. You are changed. Not bitter, but wiser. Not colder, but clearer. Your standards rise. Your boundaries sharpen. Your spirit becomes guarded like a sacred temple rather than an open doorway for onion to enter. Isolation doesn't end when someone comes back. It ends when you no longer need them to feel whole. When the rebuilding is complete, you emerge different, still loving, but selective, still kind, but not naive, still open-hearted, but protected by discernment. God doesn't isolate you to leave you empty, but to return you to the world full healed, aware, and unshakably grounded. And when restoration comes, new relationships, stronger connections, purpose-aligned community, you'll understand one thing deeply. What felt like losing everything was actually lightening yourself. There comes a point in this journey where everything begins to make sense. The distance, the silence, the people who faded, all of it forms a pattern. A pattern you couldn't see while you were hurting, but becomes clear when peace finally settles. What once felt like loss begins to feel like alignment, because separation is never the final stage, alignment is. When God removes people who drain your spirit, He's not leaving you empty. He is clearing space. Space for new voices. Space for healthier connections. Space for those who see your worth without needing proof. Sometimes the most divine gift is not addition, but subtraction. The wrong people leaving is the first miracle. The right people arriving is the second. But before new connections come, your identity must change internally. You must first learn to walk without needing external approval. You must outgrow the version of yourself who tolerated disrespect for the sake of peace. Because when God brings new people into your life, wise, supportive, spiritually aligned people, you must meet them as the healed version of yourself, not the wounded one. Growth attracts different worlds. There was a time when you needed acceptance from familiar faces. Now you crave sincerity more than proximity. You value energy more than history. And you understand that blood may make you related, but loyalty makes you family. Alignment means this. You no longer chase relationships. You recognize them. You no longer explain your standards. You embody them. You no longer beg to be understood. You speak once and walk in peace. Life begins to introduce you to people who match your growth. People who don't get threatened when you evolve. People who clap for you without jealousy. People who speak life into you behind your back. People who show up without being asked. And suddenly the loneliness you once feared becomes the soil where new roots form. But here is the beautiful truth. Restoration often doesn't look like repair. God may not bring old family back. Instead, He may give you a new family. Brothers and sisters in spirit. People connected not by DNA but by destiny. They'll understand you without long explanations. They'll respect your boundaries. They'll cherish your presence instead of competing with your growth. They'll love without agenda, quietly, steadily, genuinely, and you'll realize you didn't lose family. You found the right one. Divine alignment also means something deeper. You align with yourself, your values, your peace, your calling. You stop fighting for relationships that drain you and start nurturing those that nourish you. Your life becomes lighter. Your heart becomes quieter. Your steps become more intentional. Not everyone can walk with you, and that's okay. Some people were chapters, not the whole book. Some were lessons, not lifetime characters. Divine separation hurt you. Yes, but alignment heals you. Because when you finally step into the people God meant for you, when your circle becomes mesmeler but stronger, when peace becomes your home instead of chaos, you'll look back at every closed door and whisper, "Now I understand." God didn't take anything away. He replaced what your soul could no longer afford to carry. And in that moment of clarity, everything aligns. Your heart, your path, your purpose, your people. What once felt like abandonment now feels like rescue. There will come a day, maybe quietly, maybe suddenly, where you look back every distance, every separation, every tear-filled night. And instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you'll say with a soft but powerful certainty, "Thank God it did." Because what you thought was loss was actual liberation. What felt like rejection was redirection. And what looked like God removing people was God rescuing you from what would have destroyed your peace. You didn't lose family. You outgrew environments your spirit could no longer breathe. You didn't fail to keep them close. God succeeded in keeping Yusuf. Not because they were evil, but because your calling required clarity. Your purpose required peace. Your future required freedom. He saw the envy behind the smile you didn't. He heard conversations you would never hear. He witnessed intentions you kept excusing because your heart was pure. So he stepped in silently, surgically, mercifully. He allowed distance, misunderstanding, silence not to break your heart, but to break the attachment that was breaking you. And now on the other side of the storm, you're not bitter, you're wiser. You don't chase anymore. You attract. You don't beg for space in places built on ego. You walk with dignity, because the version of you who tolerated disrespect no longer exists. A new version stands here, healed, anchored, refined, one who knows that peace is priceless. One who understands that not everyone who shares your blood shares your spirit. One who realizes that love without respect isn't love, it's access. And God removed access. So now your life begins again from a higher place. Your circle becomes intentional. Your boundaries become sacred. Your love becomes selective, not cold, but conscious. You bless them as you release them. No resentment, no revenge, pleasure and clarity. Because real maturity isn't proving yourself to those who misunderstood you. It's quietly growing into someone they can't access anymore. And as you step into this next season, carry this truth with you. Sometimes God breaks your heart to save your soul. Sometimes He empties your hands so you can receive bigger blessings. Sometimes the goodbye you feared becomes the miracle you needed. The wounds made you wise. The distance made you strong. Desperation made you whole. And one day, maybe soon, maybe later, you'll stand in a moment of unexpected peace and whisper, "God didn't take them away. He took me forward." Growth doesn't just change you, it transforms your environment. And the moment you begin to heal, to think differently, to value peace more than approval, something subtle starts happening. Your circle shifts. People you once felt close to now feel distant. Conversations that once excited you now feel shallow. Rooms that once felt like home now feel too small for your spirit. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. When you grow, You no longer fit into versions of yourself that required shrinking. You've learned to set boundaries, to protect your energy, to choose emotional intelligence over emotional chaos. Naturally, those who were comfortable with your old self may not know how to stand beside your new one. And so, distance forms, not because you hate them, but because you are outgrowing what kept you small, not because they were all bad, but because some relationships belong to old chapters of your life. Not the next one. This is God's refinement. He removes what drains you to make room for what sustains you. He separates you from familiar pain so you can meet unfamiliar peace. Growth will expose who is connected to your heart and who wasn't connected to your benefits, who truly supported you and who silently scented your evolution, who celebrated you and who felt threatened by your progress. It hurts realizing people you love may never clap for you, but it is also liberating because you stop performing for acceptance and start living for purpose. What once felt like rejection now becomes revelation. You begin to see who respects your boundaries, who values your time, who shows up without needing something in return. You see clearly, and clarity is God's mercy. The shrinking of your circle is not loss, it's pruning. A tree cannot bear fruit unless dead branches fall away. Likewise, some connections must be trimmed so your spirit can grow. You stop chasing closeness. You stop forcing conversations. You stop explaining your worth. Instead, you move quietly. You nurture peace. You honor your growth. And in time, life returns the right people to you, not because you begged for them, but because you became the person who attracts them naturally. People who don't compete with your success, but celebrate it. People who don't demand your energy, but respect it. People who don't hold you down, but lift you higher. God doesn't expand your circle by adding first. He expands it by removing what isn't aligned. So if your circle feels smaller today, don't panic. Small doesn't mean empty, it means purified. It means the noise has faded so purpose can be heard. It means the wrong crowd has left so the right one can enter. And when that alignment happens, you'll understand. You never lost people, you lost weight. And that is how God prepares you for elevation. There comes a moment, quiet, heavy, honest, where you stop asking why they left and begin asking why it took you so long to let go. Because distance has a way of revealing what emotion once blinded. Space makes truth audible. When God removes someone, it is rarely loud. There is no dramatic exit, no thunder in the sky. Just a gradual fading, less calls, less connection, less peace when they're near until one day you wake up and realize your heart beats calmer without them. It is in that moment, often painful, that transformation begins. You start discovering pieces of yourself you buried to keep the peace. How you lowered your voice to avoid conflict. How you shrank your dreams to avoid jealousy. How you tolerated behavior that bruised your spirit simply because family is family. But healing teaches you something powerfully. Stoic blood makes you related, but love makes you family. And real family, even if not bonded by DNA, will never need you to dim to feel comfortable. They will never weaponize your past, mock your healing, or punish your success. They will walk with you, not against you. Separation is not the end of love, it is the end of illusion. God removes people not to leave a void Buddha. Create a vacancy for better connections, for healthier love, for peace that doesn't require self. Betrayal to maintain in the silence that follows separation. You learn to hear your own voice again. Your intuition returns. Your self-worth rises. You become more selective, less available, more grounded. You stop confusing closeness with access and love with obligation. You realize you are allowed to love people from a distance. You are allowed to protect your inner peace without guilt. You are allowed to outgrow environments that no longer nourish you. Stoicism teaches us that what we release with reason, we never lose. We simply return it to where it belongs. The past stays in the past. The future opens like a door you were once too afraid to touch. And as you step through that door, you do so with a quieter mind and a stronger spine. You stop carrying relationships belt on duty. You begin cultivating relationships rooted in respect, reciprocity, emotional intelligence, and shared values. Because when God removes a person, He is not taking away love. He is redirecting it. He isolating you toward people whose presence feels like peace, not pressure, toward conversations that build, not break, toward love that expands you, not restricts you. One day you will look back and feel gratitude instead of grief. You will thank God for the distance. You will thank Him for revealing who was seasonal and who was destined. You will realize the inspiration didn't destroy you. It delivered you. And that is when you will finally understand God wasn't removing people from your life. He was removing limits from your spirit. If you watched until this moment, you already know not every departure is abandonment. Sometimes God protects you by subtracting. Sometimes silence is not rejection, it is redirection. You were not cut off, you were carved out, separated so you could grow, so you could see clearly, so you could become the version of you that no longer settles for half love, forced loyalty, or borrowed peace. Listen, you are stepping into a new chapter now. One where you choose inner peace over obligation, purpose over approval, boundaries over chaos. One where love is mutual, energy is respected, and your soul can finally breathe. If this message spoke to your spirit, comment below. I choose peace. I choose the enlightenment. Let the world know you're walking into a higher season with clarity and courage. Hit like if this video brought understanding to your journey. Subscribe to the Stoic Tide and turn on notifications so you never miss our next Stoic lesson. Share this video with someone who needs confirmation that letting go was never failure, it was protection. Because this story is not about whole lift, it's about who you are becoming. And trust me, God does not remove without preparing to replace. The right people will enter with gentleness, love, and alignment. Your heart will recognize them instantly. Until then, stand tall, walk forward, and carry your peace like armor.